Hello and welcome to Bergkamp Wonderland. We are still officially an Arsenal podcast, and hopefully this time YouTube won't let us down and it might start working. So in the chat, people, if you're there, let me know if the YouTube is working. I've actually put some effort into this one. I've made notes. I've made introductions. So here we go. My first guest is Sophie from the Highbury Squad, where Sophie spends about 10 hours a week, every week, winding up Big Kev Campbell, and when the poor bloke bites back, she gives him a yellow card for his troubles. All right, Sophie?
I'm perfect. Be careful, boys, because I do have my book here with me tonight. Yellows and reds at the ready. Super Kevin Campbell is a legend, but not immune to a card.
That's it. You see fit tonight, so if you dish those out like who's a really like Keith Ellery in an Arsenal Manchester Derby game in the 1990s. You go crazy. Right, excellent. Keith. My second guest is Harry from the Chronicles of a Gooner, and along with Sophie and Tom, this is an actual fact, people, is the hardest working Arsenal podcasters in the Arsenal universe. That is a fact, isn't it?
I don't know about that.
God, you three, between you, do so many. I can barely be bothered to do a couple of shows a week. You comment, like you're leaving us after about 45 minutes because you've got to go and do commentary. And then you've got a couple of young kids, and then you're doing writing, and then you're doing your Chronicle stuff. How many hours sleep roughly do you get a week? 3, 4?
Yeah, with two kids at the age that mine are at, something like that. Yeah, makes sense.
Excellent. Anyway, thanks
it's
for
those
joining
Greek
us.
genes. It's those Greek genes.
Can't you see I look knackered?
This could have been called the Arsenal Greek podcast because 3 of us are Greek. I'm 16%, and I'm claiming that just for tonight. I could have called it that, but after one of the recent podcasts, we called it a tangerine and a lump of coal. And you don't call Arsenal podcast nonsense like that because no one knows what you're talking about. So, right, my third guest is the Bristolian who is actually the chef from the Muppets is based on. Not a lot of people know that, but that is an actual fact, isn't it, James?
It is very
birdie,
very
birdie,
true. Shut up, you.
Even looks like you. And also, another related fact, never has a child look more like his dad than you and your little man. That is, every time I see the pair of you, it warms the cockles of my cold, dead heart.
Funnily enough, about 3 people commented on the same thing today when I was at my Christmas party at work. That he's the spit of me.
Yeah.
Which, you know.
Your missus is furious.
Probably, yeah, a little bit.
Right. And finally, the man who is, I couldn't believe this until I checked it out today, who is unbelievably making his ABW debut, even though ABW and Goonosphere have the same basic podcasting DNA. It's the Jock Man, the writer of books, the eater of hamwitches, and a friend to the stars, and a copywriter of some renown. So if anybody needs anything copywriting, Jock Man, he is your man. You right, Jock?
Hello, thank you for that wonderful introduction. No pressure.
I'm
surprised too. I've been invited to this podcast so many times, and I'm like, oh yeah, I keep flaking out because I've got the same problem as Harry, 2 very young kids. Well, that's not a problem. It's not a problem. I've put a very negative overture. Kids problem. No, I didn't mean it like that.
It sounded like one of those.
I've got the same affliction.
Like one of those Scooby-Doo films. You're going, damn kids. What have you done to my life? Pesky kids. That's the one.
But I am now, I'm making my debut. Hopefully it's as good as Patino's from yesterday.
How long have you been in the ABW WhatsApp group? About a year. And it's the first time you've made the show.
I'm that one guy, that one person who never comments and just pops up and just watches what everyone else says.
To get Jock on, you have to have the universe align perfectly. And it's this one time in which it's happened.
Yeah, it's my mom's birthday today. They're all downstairs singing. I'm not upstairs doing a podcast.
Oh, no. That's terrible. We nearly had a trifecta of Daniel Cowan on here, but he said maybe next time. He's a little bit busy. I think he's just, did he say he's moved or he's on the run for murder? Yeah. It was one or the other.
Both.
Yeah.
He moved on account of being on the run from murder. It's just one of those things he had to do.
It's always a good thing to move rather than stay still because they will get you. Well, Chris Carpenter's got away with it for the last 26 years.
He's murdering fashion with them goddamn trousers he wears.
Those trousers still look like a deck chair.
He's a fashion trendsetter. Just so far, the trend hasn't taken off. Right, let's get into the podcast. So we've actually made some notes. We start off with Harry. The Leeds game. The media claiming, this is the point I didn't realise, the media are claiming that they had to play their kids, yet they had one teenager and their average age of their starting 11 was 27, ours was 24. So what do you think to the game? And what do you think to them bleating on about the fact that, Oh, we're all playing 12-year-olds. That's why you beat us.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good performance from Arsenal, and it was a needed away win, wasn't it? Because there have been question marks about our form on the road. Leeds normally is quite a difficult place to go to. There was obviously lots of speculation around whether or not the game was going to go ahead, and it's unsettling. We know that Arsenal had a couple of COVID cases going into that game as well, and we know that Arsenal didn't train as much as they'd have liked in the lead up to the game off the back of all those issues. So to go there and get the points was massive. To go there and get the points when so many other teams in the division were not even playing was also key, because it's one of those situations where if you get the points on the board, it's great. But if you don't, then you've played that game and everybody else has got an opportunity to see what you've done and then maybe cash in on your mistake. So good performance, good result. Lots of positive individual performances as well. With regards to the thing about Leeds, bleating on about having to play with a weakened side, I know that the average age of their starting 11, as you say, was quite high, but they are riddled with problems at the moment, and they have been for a while. I don't normally have sympathy for Leeds. I never have had before, but I do have sympathy for Marcelo Bielsa at the moment, because he's done a wonderful job to get them back into the Premier League, playing a really nice style of football, and he's just without so many key players at the moment. So if I were a Leeds fan, I'd be feeling hard done by based on the kind of rotten luck that they've had. But good game for the Arsenal, and there's not much more we could have asked for. Clean sheet would have been nice, but the goal we conceded, all of our own making. So, we move on.
We do. So, if any, you're all seasoned podcasters. Don't sit there until I ask you a question. Although, if you decide to do that, I've got it covered. So, there was Bielsa came out with a really nice quote after the game, didn't he? He said we've got one player injured. We've got one player. Was it one player out of COVID? No, one suspended, one COVID, and the rest are injuries. And so the game shouldn't have been called off. Really nice move from him, that wasn't it?
He was very honest, I felt. And by the way, I'm honoured to be on a podcast with Freddie Ljungberg. It's fantastic stuff.
Don't do that.
What people don't know is that's a normal bed, and he is actually standing up next to the bed. He's reading a jog. I won't do that again. Sorry,
Sophie. You're also my favourite.
Freddie Ljungberg from an alternate dimension where he loves cheeseburgers.
If Freddie Ljungberg had sex with a potato, I would be his offspring.
Then we got a show. Let's make it. No, I thought that was really stand up of him versus Tuchel, whatever, who kind of came out and complained about the fact that they had asked for the game to be postponed, and really they had pretty much a full strength side. Look, we're entering into tricky waters. Everyone has to deal with a lot of things. When someone's sick at work, someone has to step in for them and do their job, right? I think that we're expecting miracles also of these athletes because we think they're superhuman. But at the end of the day, they are human and they go home. They go home to wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, kids, families. And it's really a difficult time and a difficult situation. But I appreciated that Bielsa said we play on. And the Premier League made the decision to carry on, which for us as fans, let's be honest, in this time of real difficulty, and there are so many people out there suffering and a lot of people who are struggling with the times that we're living in. Football is keeping us sane and keeping us going. But it's not gladiator, right? We have to take their health into consideration. So I like that he was honest, and I appreciate and think that more managers should be of the same ilk. And he showed a lot more class than his fans did that night, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly is. And he could have had an excuse for it. But also, does anybody know why he squats down like that the entire game? I made this point in the last...
Irritable bowel syndrome.
No, it's basically because you know that tub he sits on? There's a hole in the centre that no one shows. He's taking a massive dump on the side of the bench. So
it's unbelievable. A man of his age can do that.
How long would it be? I think most of us here would need help. Well, I wouldn't. I'd be dead. But I think most of you lot, after about a minute in that position, you'd need the St. John's to come and give you a hand up, wouldn't you?
I have to speak as a parent. Squatting down and hunkering down on all fours while you assemble a jigsaw puzzle. 2, mess around with tablet settings. 3, you're pretty much always hunkering down or squatting down.
But you've got a lower center of gravity than the rest of us. So further less to compact.
Why wouldn't you go down on all fours? Like,
because then the children are taller than him.
That's also the name of my sex tape. Why wouldn't I go down on all fours? It's out in all good bookstores and video stores. Sorry. I did have a relevant point to make in terms of what you're mentioning, Sophie. I read something on Twitter today. It was a Preston fan. I don't know if anyone else caught it. It was a stream of tweets where he was talking about mental health and how he was suffering. He was in a really dark place, and he was thanking more or less the Preston fans and the Preston players for giving him something to look forward to during these really bleak times. And Izzy Brown, one of the players who is apparently recently lost a brother, and obviously is going through the same tough shit that we all are, excuse my French, he reached out to him, and they both had a phone conversation, and it was enough to stop this Preston fan who was contemplating very dark thoughts, stop him doing what he was contemplating. And it kind of showed that, yeah, the players are human. That's a very good point that you made. They're still going home to their families exactly like we are. We're all at risk to a certain degree when we go out there. But I mean, this is unprecedented. Nothing like this has ever happened before. So I mean, there's also the point where which you also kind of inferred, is that they're paid. We always go back to how much money they're obviously paid, but they're also in as bubble-like atmosphere as they could possibly have. I mean, the training facilities are taken care of by a fleet of staff to make sure everything's cleaned and sanitized, and not all of us have that. So I mean, you've got the one point where play on, carry on. It's kind of your duty. There's people who look up to you. You're giving people something to look forward to. There's also the other hand where they're normal people. If you're playing 2 games in 2 days, and they're away games, and you're on a bus with someone coughing. I mean, look at what Tuchel was saying. Now, I've got no pity for Chelsea because they could compile 3 international squads, but at the same time, he was saying, we travelled up to the Wolves game on a coach. Jorginho was coughing. And he shared a meal with all of us, and now we're all thinking, can we go home to our families for Christmas? We don't know. And that kind of illuminated a few things as well. I don't really know where I stand. Should they play on? Should they not? I'd understand both if the football stopped and if it didn't.
Yeah, good point. James, how do you feel? Have you got anything about the Leeds game, or how do you feel about the fact that with should games be cancelled? Because from our podcast, Raj had the COVID ings last week. So did Carl. They're both over it.
Oh, no.
And today, Femi from our podcast said he's just been tested negative, and he's got 2 young kids. And he's tested positive, and he's got 2 young kids, and Christmas is ruined.
To answer your first question first, in terms of what do I think about the Leeds game, it's one of those ones where you can have 2 perspectives on it. You can look at it via a negative prism and think we can only dispatch the so-called weakened side in front of us, or you can take what I prefer to do and the alternate route, look at it positively and think, irrespective of the team that's presented to us, we still performed. We still put on a very, very good attacking display, and we could have comfortably had 8 goals in that first half, and it wouldn't have been flattering to us. So the team, for when we have elements that you don't agree with what's happening and they don't look necessarily good, and it's fair to point those things out, I think you've got to go the other way. You've got to look at the positives and think there are signs that this is a team that's growing into what it could become. There is no small measure of potential, and I thought we were really, really good, and I think they should forget about what was in front of us because we can't control that. And, look at what we did. And what we did was very, very good. In terms of your second question, COVID, do I think there should be some sort of postponement? I think it's going to get to the point where there is no choice. I think as the variant and the cases, they go up and they continue to go up, and they are growing just practically exponentials by the day now. So it's going to come to a point where it's dangerous to have large groups of people, whether that be players or supporters, all congregating in the same area, because it's just going to mass produce the virus. And that virus in turn, it's going to get passed on to people who are vulnerable. People don't necessarily have the highest immune systems, and they're going to be the ones that fall victim of it. So in terms of that, I think the only sensible thing to do is to take a break. It will have repercussions further down the field in terms of the scheduling, but it's just one of those things. When you hold it in comparison to the others, you've got to do it that way.
That's true, indeed. Very rarely, this is a very strange occasion. I'll ask you this, Harry. Phil Macker's made a good point. Why didn't Sunderland players take the knee last night? It's up to people individually whether they want to make do that or not. But if your team has got black players in and the team don't take the knee, that is a little bit. If I was a black player in that Sunderland team, I'd be going, well, why aren't you? Was there any reason given?
Not that I know of. It took me back a little bit because when
to be
game,
honest, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, when I was watching the game, I was doing a watch along on the channel, and I was sort of saying, because I've got used to sort of doing commentaries over the last year or so and saying that being one of my lines in the lead up to the kickoff, like, you know, the players have taken to the knee in support of the Black Lives Matter campaign and looking for racial equality, etc., etc. And I looked and I was like, why haven't the Sunderland players done it? But it's not that uncommon. I think if you look around Europe, it's not that uncommon anymore. There's a lot of teams that have decided to stop doing it, not because they don't believe in the cause, but because they feel like the message is kind of it's lost a bit of its value because we're just doing it and not really then following it up with the right actions and the right kind of attitude and behaviors off the back of that. So I'm not saying I wouldn't have taken the knee, but I think that we're in this place now where it's been going on for a while. And I just think that genuinely a lot of people think that it's not having the impact that it should be anymore. And we've heard some black players come out. Wilfred Zaha's a prime example. Who said, I find it degrading. I don't want to do it. And at times Crystal Palace have done it. And Wilfred Zaha has been the only Palace player standing. So I think it depends on why they're not doing it, right? Ultimately, we can't sort of kick them for it if they're doing it because for a genuine reason. If they're doing it because they just think it's, you know, that the cause doesn't need highlighting, then that's obviously wrong. But I was told from somebody that was at the game last night, and I wasn't there last night, that that some of the Sunderland fans were booing it, and that is definitely not on.
Yeah,
Ivan Toney the same? He doesn't take the knee anymore.
So, did you hear about what happened in the German third division? I mean, we're moving off topic a little bit, but the someone was abused by one of the fans, and the players and the ref said, "Right, all off, game abandoned." Did you hear about that in the German third division?
I did not.
Yeah, that's pretty big. That was in the last. Do you hear about it, Harry, or anybody else?
No, first
I
time
briefly read about it, but
yeah,
don't know.
There was a video of it, and the poor bloke was coming off, and he was in tears. He was inconsolable. But I suppose it's up to the individual people whether they want to do it or not.
We had an incident here too with Landon Donovan's team in San Diego, you know, similar. And I think the more people walk off, you have to, this is where, for me, I think certain athletes or sports have to take a bigger stance in order to make a bigger noise. I think the knee has lost its effect. What purpose does it serve other than showing respect for a cause that started a long time ago? And I just feel like, you know, as a gay woman too, it's all well and good Lewis Hamilton wearing the rainbow helmet while he's riding in Saudi Arabia and making a shit ton of money. But if he boycotted that race, that would have a lot more traction than running the race and Mercedes and his team making millions of dollars. So not to get into all of that stuff now, but I just think that at some point you've got to make a bit of a bigger stance as opposed to just doing token things that appease people but really don't have an impact at a greater level.
That could be an interesting podcast that you could do. Or anybody could do. Just I
did it when the Saudis took over Newcastle, and that was very polarizing. I have to say
that you shed a tear, didn't you? Because you were very passionate about it.
Yeah. And I had Warren Barton on and Kevin at the same time too. So, yeah,
and that's a huge thing that sometimes enough is never enough. Not enough is done. Yes. Well, let's move on to another thing. The Sunderland game. Anybody want to talk about anything about the Sunderland game? And did anybody think that the Was there anybody from the reserves and the Deadwood that have gone, "Oi, Arteta, I might be up for a few first team games"? Was that you, James? Were you
Yeah,
waving?
I'll crack on. I was actually going to adjust my hat, but I'll crack on if you
I
like.
thought you were waving at the Goonosphere in the logo in the corner.
He was actually bidding for an auction on eBay.
Oh, cheeky.
I was actually basking in the glory of it. Wrong side up here. I don't know. I was looking at some of the so-called fringe or interim players, and there were elements of that game where I was sort of, are they really showing us anything that we didn't know already? One or two of them, Cedric especially, he's not a bad player. He's just, when you compare him to what we have in the first team now in Tomiyasu, then he is some considerable distance away from what we need, and I don't think he's ever going to be there.
He's the perfect backup, though, mate. He's just like Elneny. Think about it. You don't often get many good backups that provide adequate cover, and I'm more than happy to recognise the fact that they're adequate cover.
I know what you're saying, but given the position that Tomiyasu takes up and the physicality and the sort of what the role needs, Callum Chambers is a much better deputy.
Well, I'd have Callum Chambers as centre back, to be honest. I am a huge fan of Callum Chambers and Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
Both of those are streets ahead of Cedric, in my opinion.
I would agree with you on that. I mean, I'm mystified that Maitland-Niles isn't starting ahead of Elneny, because every time I've seen him in the centre of midfield, he's blown me away. I mean, he played in the FA Cup final, the last one we won, and he ran the show for the first 55, 60 minutes.
Would you not agree that when in the Leeds game, when Tomiyasu went off and Cedric came on, your first instinct was, oh, bloody hell, we don't need Tomiyasu to get injured, because we looked defensively fragile. Well,
there's some mystifying decisions from Arteta. I think there's something going on behind the scenes with Maitland-Niles. I think it's a mindset, personality clash, something that Arteta thinks he should work on, which is why he ain't getting enough starts, which is why Elneny, Mr. 6 out of 10, is starting ahead of him, which I don't agree with. There has to be something going on behind the scenes. With Callum Chambers, before he got injured, when Arteta first started out, Chambers was getting the starts, and he was playing incredibly well. I mean, he hasn't got a lot of pace, but he was putting in great balls. He wasn't a complete liability. He was a very good right back, and he was playing centre back as well. And then he got injured, and since he's come back, he hasn't had a sniff. And I just don't get it.
I mean, admittedly, like you say, there are things that go on behind closed doors that you, I, or anyone here doesn't know anything about. And for all we know, that Cedric puts in the performances, and in training, he's the one that looks the most suitable to go in. It's just, is that a plane going overhead? Can anyone hear that?
It's a little plane just flew over my house. Yes.
What do you two think, Harry and also? And Harry, your top lip quivered as if you were going to say something. Then I'm very good at reading people. Go on.
I don't think Cedric is as bad as people make him out to be, but I think what the problem is with Cedric is that he is an old. I don't want to say old school because he's not old school, but he is not the type of fullback that Mikel Arteta wants in the team. Mikel Arteta, his team, I've said it for a long time, is a little bit lopsided in that it's designed that the left back gets more freedom to get forward, and the right back's job is different. He becomes inverted. He tucks in alongside the centre backs, and Tomiyasu is the perfect hybrid of a centre back and a right back, which means that when we do push the left back forward, he can become part of a back three. Doesn't look uncomfortable. But I would say that if you're going to find a criticism, a fault of Takehiro Tomiyasu, is that his final ball when he gets in the attacking third is not that great. Cedric is the opposite. Cedric is one of those fullbacks that wants to get forward all the time, and probably his biggest asset is his ability to put the ball in the box. He's got a good delivery on him, Cedric, and Mikel Arteta has alluded to that on numerous occasions. He said it quite a bit last season when there were question marks over whether it should be him or Bellerin or Chambers. Arteta constantly said that he's the one with the most end product when we get in the final third. So I just think Cedric is someone who doesn't fit in the system that we're playing now. But equally, I don't look at Callum Chambers and think that he can do it every week at right back. I think we saw some really good performances from him last season and some really poor ones. Maitland-Niles in midfield. I think Maitland-Niles would have played yesterday had he not been out with illness. That was what the club's official line was on his absence. So I think had he not been ill, I'm pretty sure he would have started. I don't think Mikel would have wanted to play both Odegaard and Smith Rowe in the midfield. I felt that in Maitland-Niles' absence, he didn't want to go with Patino from the beginning and decided that was the way forward.
I absolutely agree with what you just said. I think the problem with Cedric for me is that he will cost us more goals than he creates. Whereas you could argue that Tomiyasu is the reverse of that. Cedric has the end product, but if we were playing against a good attacking team, he would make us shit kittens with him at the back.
I think we need the same type of competition at right back that we have at left back right now with Nuno and Tierney, and the upgrades there. And you look and see with Gabriel and Ben White, I love Holding. He's a great kid and he's a good guy. But again, there's a drop off, right? I think if anything, we see in these games like the League Cup, the drop off if, God forbid, a Tomiyasu is injured or, Gabriel or Ben White are injured. Even looking at Leno, I thought he was decent, but he's not as commanding. And I think we've seen that. And the evidence was again kind of put in front of our faces last night, not having Ramsdale. So I'm so sick and tired of this whole. Nketiah scored a hat-trick. Love the kid. Great kid. But he's doing it against a League One team in Sunderland that, yes, is a little resurgent and playing a lot better under this manager. And they've got a nice kind of balance in their squad now. But he's not the answer. Arsenal are going to be judged in the Premier League. We've seen Chambers play. We've seen Nketiah play. We've seen Holding play. We've seen Kolasinac play. We've seen El Neni play. We've seen all these players play. They do not improve the Arsenal in the Premier League. They may be good in a cup competition, but if we want to evolve as a team, if we want to be consistent and more competitive in the Premier League, we've got to start moving away from these players. And that includes Cedric. Came on at Leeds. He looked susceptible. But to be fair to them too, they don't get the game time to play. But we need to upgrade across the board. We can't keep relying on what we've seen. Worn the T-shirt, drank from the mug, seen the movie. I mean, it's time to just move on from it. What do you need to see more from Cedric or any of those other players?
I would argue to a point. I think it's on a case-by-case basis. I think some of those are ideal stand-ins, and I think if they are given a run in the side, a few of them have shown that they can do it week in, week out. Unfortunately, their week in, week out run.
Maitland-Niles to me is like a Phil Neville. He's good to have in the team because he's like a hybrid. He's like a satellite dish. You can put him at right back. You can put him in midfield. He's versatile. Every team needs a player like that. But Chambers, really?
I would argue that Chambers is good enough when he plays week in, week out. Unfortunately, he doesn't get often enough a run. But when he doesn't
upgrade Arsenal. He doesn't make us. But Tomiyasu's made us better in that position. He offers so much more. That's the difference.
I would say that to be a successful club, you need a very strong squad, and some players will fulfill a role. They'll play 20, 25 games a season, and they'll come in and out the side. I would argue that Chambers is more than adequate to be that as a centre back. As a right back, the jury's out. Maitland-Niles,
as a right back, he's the best cover for what we've got.
I think he's the most like for like. I think that's the key in terms of his stature, in terms of his physicality, in terms of the fact that he is a bit of a right back and a centre back. I think that's why he's a good fit tactically. But I think his contract comes to an end at the end of the season, which could be partly why Mikel Arteta's not keen on using him. I don't know.
Maybe he's already made noises to the manager to say, listen, I've had it now. I've had my stay here. I've had my stint. Maitland-Niles, I would argue that every time he started in the last 10 starts he's had a really, really good game, and I think he deserves a run. I'm still, to be fair, it's a massive price tag. He's only just joined, but I am not entirely convinced by Ben White yet. Everyone's raving about how he has. He's been exactly what we need. I think he's had some really good displays, but on the occasions I've watched him, he's always had a shit what the fuck moment.
I
where
heard someone, sorry, Chuck, make
It's
a
all
very good point where they likened him to Koscielny. Koscielny's first season and a bit at Arsenal was ropey, but you could see that as he got older, he was going to evolve. I think White's the same.
I think, yeah, Koscielny also had the added he's going to have a red card in a minute moment. But I don't know. I'm not. I think that you compare them to they're both very different types of defenders. Gabriel is very robust. He's very good in the air. I mean, I hate to hark back to the first game of the season, because we were riddled with COVID. It was the first game of the season. Brentford had the fire in the bellies, whatnot. But I mean, Ivan Toney, he would beat most defenders in the air anyway. But Ben White didn't have he didn't win a header all night. Against Leeds, against a wee bit of pace, he was on the deck more than once. I'm not entirely convinced by Ben White, and I think we need some adequate cover, and I think Chambers would fulfil that at the moment.
Yes.
Oh my
I
gosh,
agree with all of that lot.
shocking statement.
But I think you've
Wow.
got to be-
You know what? Ben White is a victim of his price tag. The same thing as Pepe. It is not Ben
No,
White's
it's not the
fault.
same thing as Pepe.
Hold on 1 second. It's not Ben White's fault that the British marketplace asks and demands that type of fee. It is not Pepe's fault that Arsenal Football Club paid £72 million for him. They are victims of their price tag. And I'm not saying Pepe is the answer, but Ben White has done a lot more good in that position in the short space of time than Mustafi or Socrates or any of those other players. And the fact that he gets kind of every Arsenal fan sometimes, most Arsenal fans want a scapegoat. And it seems like Ben White is that because we paid 50 million for him. But they complement each other. Gabriel, Ben White, that's the whole point of a partnership. Vidic, Ferdinand, even in Leicester's year when they won in 2015, Wes Morgan, they complement each other. You have to have a partnership. He made a stupid mistake against Leeds and people kind of want to kill him for it. And I think that he's elevated the back line and helped create this back five and be part of this back five that is completely different to anything that we've seen in the last 3 or 4 seasons. I just think that we need to be a little bit more lenient with him. And, it's always like he's shit in the air. Well, okay. Every player has some things they need to work on. But I don't think comparing Chambers to Ben White, really, I mean,
two points. One, you can't compare Ben White's price tag to Pepe's price tag, or the both cases are completely different. Pepe's had 3 seasons, 2.5 seasons, and he's had a string of starts in the league. Pepe, I would argue is. I think he's going to be on his way out. He's had
but it's still not his fault. We paid 72 million for him, and Arsenal fans expect miracles.
My point is that regardless of the price tag, let's say we bought him for his market value, which is roughly about 40-45 million. He has had ample time to prove himself. Ben White hasn't. And 2, I would say on Twitter, Facebook, all the Facebook groups, I've not seen many people make Ben White a scapegoat. In fact, quite the contrary. I've seen people absolutely creaming about Ben White and saying that he's the second coming. All I'm saying is that, one, he's not as good as people have been making him out to be at the moment. He needs he needs some more settling in. And 2, he's still very, very young. I'm saying I'm not entirely convinced he's as good as everyone.
I don't think people are convinced. I think the majority of people are probably on your side of thinking here with regards to Ben White. The jury's still out with him.
I'm entirely the majority of the time the stuff I write about is entirely positive. I mean, I wrote about 3 months ago, but when Gabriel Martinelli was having a really rough time, and people were saying, actually, maybe this injury's changed him. Like done the Fernando Torres thing. Maybe he's not as good as we thought he was, and he was just a flash in the pan. And I wrote something to say, listen, the kid needs some time. He's incredibly young. He's had a body rocking injury, and he's now got to come back not only to get back to full fitness. He's got to get back to fight his way back into the side. He still feels like he's got a point to prove. He's got the mentality. He's still a very, very young man. And look what's happening now. He's been given arm around the shoulder. He's been given ample time to get back into where he was. I'm normally entirely positive. I'm just speaking from my own observations on Ben White. I've watched him really, really closely, and maybe he's suffering because he's next to Gabriel. I mean, Gabriel he's been like a rock. Yeah, I mean, nothing's getting past him at all, really. I don't know. The jury's out with me with Ben White. That's all.
The seaside Mustafi, how dare you, sir? Right, Harry.
I mean, the jury's still out on Arteta. The jury's still out on all of this stuff.
True.
It's all new. Well, I just don't understand. I just think, and to Tavares, I treat footballers like movies, and I just like him because he's new. Well, I like Tomiyasu. I like Kieran Tierney. I like Nuno. I like Sambi. I think they all have a tremendous road ahead of them as footballers. I just think that sometimes, same with Xhaka, let's just blame everything on Xhaka. Let's blame everything on Ben White. I just don't see what Ben White has done so badly for us to kind of point the finger at him. That's all.
Well, yes. I think he's only I think he had a season in the lower three
Ask
divisions.
Brighton and Leeds fans, Danny, what they think about Ben White.
They love him. But I can see why he annoys people. He likes to come out. He's a little bit like
Why?
Song.
Because he's tattooed and he's got blonde streaks.
Oh, no.
And
The way that
plucks his eyebrows.
Positionally, he sometimes irritates people by going forward. We've seen a couple of times of him taking the ball out of defence like he thinks he's Lothar Matthäus. And
He carries the
wasn't
ball
talking
forward
about that.
beautifully a lot of the times as well, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Isn't that what we've
passing
like
ability is he's a very much a modern day centre back. His distribution is impeccable. And I was speaking to my brother about him last night. I said he's probably one of the most handsome footballers we've had since obviously since Giroud. He is a good looking fecker. A very.
I think he could play midfield. To be honest, I think he'd be great.
There's
in
something
midfield.
now.
When Josh was he's a Brighton season ticket holder, our Josh, and he said, yeah, that's a position he could easily play. And he said that maybe when we signed him, that could be the future for him to go into that position. Anyway, Harry, how long have you got before you go?
Just a couple of minutes, man. 2, 3, 4 minutes. Don't worry.
All right, then you go with this one. Then the Obama. The upper Alba. I can't read my own. Yeah, Barack Obama. Should he play?
We really need to sign more ex-presidents of the United States, don't we?
The Alba situation. 14 goals in 4 games without him. Slightly stat padding last night. What do you think is going to happen with him? Like, who could afford his wages? Who could afford his fee? And has he still got what it takes at the top level?
It's harsh to say that he doesn't have what it takes to play at the top level, because throughout his career, barring probably last season, he's always scored goals. That's undeniable. The facts are there. I think the situation with Aubameyang now is a difficult one because, of course, this disciplinary action that's been taken against him, I think it had to be done. I think that he obviously crossed the line one too many times. The captaincy was stripped of him, and I just wonder what's going on in the background at this moment. Why is it that he's still being left out? Why is it that a line hasn't been drawn under the situation? Why is it that Mikel Arteta can't just come out and say, well, he's made his mistake, he's been punished for it, and, it's over to him now to work hard and force his way back into the side? He just doesn't want to be drawn on anything, Arteta, which makes it difficult for us as fans and onlookers to really make sense of it. I think reading between the lines, and I don't know this, but reading between the lines, it feels like the situation has become untenable between Oba and Arteta or the club, and that we are going to try and find some kind of exit strategy at the earliest opportunity. For me, I still don't think we're blessed enough in the striking positions to be able to just say, well, forget it, kick him to the curb and leave him there, because we're a Lacazette injury away from being significantly weakened. And if our season was to be derailed come the back end of it by the fact that we're missing an experienced striker, I think a lot of people are going to find that really, really disappointing. So it's a tough one. I wonder if this will accelerate Arsenal's plans to bring in a new striker. It was clearly something they're looking at for the summer with Lacazette and Nketiah's contracts coming to an end. But will the club look to accelerate that to this upcoming transfer window? I don't know. But for me, if I were the manager, I'd be leaving the door open for Aubameyang to return to the squad. Wouldn't be giving him the captaincy back anytime soon. But we've seen with Granit Xhaka that if you get your head down and get on with it, you can find a way back into the team. It's just the longer this goes on, the more difficult that becomes. And I fear that if we do allow him to leave or he continues to not be involved, we could fall a little bit short in the striking department. And I really feel like this team are moving forward and progressing, and I'm so invested in this team at the moment, and I like what the manager's doing. I like the players he's been bringing in, but I still worry that, you know, something like this could be what prevents us achieving our goals this season, and that would be really frustrating.
You could also argue that something like this could actually be the catalyst for us achieving our goals this season, because for all much as Aubameyang has been brilliant for Arsenal, you've got to take into account that him playing may not just be singly Arteta's decision. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors and how much of a disruptive influence he could potentially be. Now, I don't know either way. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Maybe he's completely innocent. Maybe he doesn't deserve any of what's happened to him. It's just one of those things that the only way that we'll ever see which is right is to see what happens in time. Now, hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? I mean, if we leave Oba out and it all goes to shit, then maybe we should have kept him on. But if we leave him out and everything's tickety-boo, then it was the right decision. Nobody.
If he really cared about the Arsenal, wouldn't he have tweeted a few times or on his Instagram saying, "Well done, boys, great win"? Nothing, zero, zilch. And he was the captain of this club. Right? Yeah, I mean, come on.
Before we go on, we didn't say goodbye to Harry because I want him to say, Harry, where can people find you on the Twitters, and plug your podcast and any other stuff that you want to give a quick plug to?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Harry Symeou. You can see it there on the screen, or you can find me on the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast and 90 Min. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on. I'm sorry that I've got a dash, but I'm working, which is a bit of a bummer.
Thank you for having me. So feel free to go. Thanks for coming, Harry.
Cheers, guys. Brilliant. Take care. Nice to chat to you.
Bye, Harry.
Bye.
Sophie, you were going to say something. Here you go. Tavares says in the chat, Soph, the only players Arteta got rid of were Ozil and Socrates. Ozil ousted for more than football, and Socrates was 34. Mustafi was offered a new contract, and Kola is still there. So I think he's
but he also sent Torreira out on loan. Guendouzi went out on loan. Mavropanos went out on loan. There was a major shift in the squad, right? So. And also, we didn't get any ROI on a lot of the players that did end up leaving, like Mustafi, like Ozil.
A lot of money lost.
It was a lot of money on the table that we left. So, whatever anyone wants to say, the January transfer window did help us move the culture and the DNA of the club in a different direction. And I do give Arteta credit for that. I've not been a fan of him in the Premier League as a manager. I think he still has a lot to prove. Finishing 8th and 8th isn't good enough. And this season we have to qualify for Europe. And if we don't, it's a major, major failure. So, but I do give him credit for being ruthless and trying to evolve the club. And Aubameyang, you know, no one's bigger than the team. And Tony Adams said it, play for the badge on the front and people remember your name on the back. And I think over the last few years, we just haven't had that. We've had selfish, self-centered, apathetic players who care more about themselves than they do about the club. And I think finally we've got a set of players that we can fall in love with and root for. How long has that been since the Arsenal have had that? Been a long time.
I also think we look a better team without him there. Aubameyang,
I agree completely, James, 100%.
We've seen how much Lacazette has improved and how much he's taken the weight as the leader of the team on his shoulders and shown everybody. The bloke who everyone went, he won't last 60 minutes. He's 90, 90 and 83. There you go, straight away. The Americanism in the baseball, which I hate people using, he stepped up to the plate and he's done it. Which is more than we...
What accent was that, though, Danny?
What? There was no accent.
You put on a little accent.
No, I don't do
Also, the difference is when Lacazette doesn't score, he still offers something to the team, whether it's his movement, his positioning, the way he runs the channels, the way he takes defenders with him. When Aubameyang doesn't score... Unfortunately, of late, he hasn't offered much to the team. Granted, he's had a few games where tracking back, he's done quite well, but that's not why he's paid 300 grand plus a week. We want him to score goals. And yes, he saved us early on in his Arsenal career. So did Leno's saves, you could argue, that were a part of that terrible first season that he had at the Arsenal. So, you know, I think that's the difference between Laka and Oba. And it's a little bit like Bobby Firmino. He doesn't get the credit that he deserves, but he allows Mane and Salah to do the things that they do up front. And I think Lacazette is a bit similar in that regard. I'm not saying they're the same talent, but I think they offer the same in order to be able to allow those creative players to do what they do as well.
Excellent. Have you got?
I'm going to have to duck out. Yeah. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, it is.
Unfortunately, of course, it's always unfortunate we have to say goodbye to you. Everybody knows who you are, but tell them anyway and where they can find you.
You can find us at Highbury Squad across all social platforms. If you haven't heard the show, give it a shot on YouTube with myself and Super Kevin Campbell. And Danny, thank you as always for your support. Bergkamp Wonderland was the first podcast that ever invited me on to talk football. I love you guys very much. And I hope everyone has a really healthy and safe holiday season. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. And thank you for having me on. Great to meet James and Jock. Would love to have you on the Highbury Squad sometime soon to talk football.
Wicked, yeah.
Excellent.
Say the word. We'll be there.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Take care.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, don't like that look.
Jesus,
right,
no.
you dirty fuckers. I can get dirty. Now the stars have left.
Just left for the riffraff.
I was giving them to the questions because they had to go early, and you two have got nothing else to do because you have asked to stick the kids in bed.
I was enjoying listening to them, to be honest.
They are wonderful people, and two of my favourite podcasts. Well, I've got loads of favourite ones. Is there anything that we've talked about before that I didn't give you a chance to talk about because I wanted to get them to speak a little bit more? Because there's lots of stuff that has come up.
I would argue that Laka stepping up to the plate, as you said before.
Honest, look, I've got a tooth missing, and so sometimes so I wasn't honestly.
Call you Captain Danny then. If you've got a tooth missing, I have to call you Captain Danny.
No one would fuck me when I got a missing tooth. That's my philosophy. It hasn't worked. I get bullied by children.
My point was regarding Laka is that him showing, everyone knew about his interplay, his touch around the box, his hold up play was always very, very good, very intelligent player. I would say him playing the way he has is kind of signaling the death knell of Eddie Nketiah. Now everyone knows Eddie wants to go because he wants first team football. Even Paul Merson came out yesterday after the game and said, "Stick around. You're not going to lead the line at a top Premiership club at your age. You haven't done enough yet. You haven't done 20 goals a season after season after season. Stick around, get better, blah, blah, blah." Laka playing the way he has shows that Eddie needs to broaden his skill set a little bit, especially in the modern game. Eddie is an instinctive finisher. He's that much fabled fox in the box where, look at that first goal, Rob Holden's header. Keeper pulls off an incredible save. And there's not many people who could read it, but Eddie was in the right place at the right time. And that is a skill.
He's got a habit of that, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's very good at that. And he finished with any part of the body he could. That is a definite skill. But his interplay isn't good enough. He isn't strong enough. In the air, he's got a decent header, but it isn't enough to oust the majority of central defenders. He hasn't got enough about him to lead the line. So he either gets used to playing 15, 20 games for the Arsenal until he develops one of these skills, or he goes to a lower league club, not a lower league club, maybe a top championship club or a lower Premier League club, and he develops his game there. But then Paul Merson came up with another very good point, which mystified me, is that if he goes to one of these clubs, they're not going to play the Arsenal way. They're not going to play, they're not going to give him 5-10 chances a game, or that's an exaggeration, maybe 3-4 chances a game. He's going to get one chance. And if he misses, he's going to get pilloried, and his confidence is going to drop. And he's going to have less opportunity to score more goals. So he has to take all that into account. And I'm not. Eddie's got what was that comment? What are you laughing at?
Who stole the ladder to Jock's bed?
That's Josh. That's our Josh being a twat.
Well, no. Look, right. Let me show you. I have got nowhere to sit. All right. This is the.
The new place is looking decent, by the way, man.
Thanks, man. I mean, I'll give the guy the tour now. It's not finished. I mean, I'm missing doors and stuff, but
Got a question for you two. Whatever happened to Symeou Javel? Humbo showing his old school Arsenal podcast there.
We have a WhatsApp chat, don't we, James?
Yeah, he's still very much part of it. He's a married man now, is Symeou.
Yes, he is.
Good
He's still
looking
a
chap.
champion.
He showed me off camera what he looked like once. I thought, oh, he's a heartbreaker.
He looks like
He's devilishly handsome, isn't he?
He
yeah,
is.
Like a Bollywood superstar.
he's very charismatic as well. And he's very much a part of our world. We chat often. We were going to have a meetup. I want to have a meetup once every year, and we do meet up pretty much once every year at the very least. And we're going to have a Goonosphere Fest.
It's hard to get all 5 of us together at the same time. It's really hard.
And
Like I see Daniel quite a lot, but getting us all together at the same time.
True.
ABW has been going since 2013, as you know, and I have met 4 people. I met Carl and Femi at a game. Jeff come all the way from fucking Canada to see me. Mike and Goonas from the USA. No, Goonas Pod come all the way from America to see me. Ellis is 20 minutes away. Couldn't give less of a fuck. Johnny's half an hour away. It's like I'm on the moon.
I think we all met up pretty sharpish, didn't we?
Yeah,
Like,
we met up with
we've known each other 7-8 years now.
Yes, and we normally we've had some escapades. Most definitely.
Oh God, yeah.
I've seen
some
the
really
photos.
good memories.
And to this day, I cannot hear the song by Africa without shedding a tear and see you lot dancing. Was it Daniel's wedding or yours, James?
No.
I got lifted
love
up on the shoulders of my Goonosphere comrades, and I simulated rainfall, which is one of my favourite ever videos.
Magnificent. Yeah,
Best day-
so
one of
you,
the best
you
days ever.
it was I wasn't even there, and it's one of my favourite days ever. Any other bits you want to cover?
I don't know if there's that much we've got to say. I mean, I can see what Jock was saying about Ben White. Ben White, I think, is one of those players where Sophie's right. To an extent, he's a victim of his price tag. But
He's growing into it. He's getting better than worse, but more better than more worse. That's not
again. I liken him back to Koscielny. I think he's got a similar path in the team to Koscielny. I remember when the first season Koscielny was here, and he didn't look. He looked a bit weak. He looked a bit off the pace. He wasn't necessarily as physically imposing as you would expect a defender to be. But as he grew, as he got used to the league, he got better. Then every one of his good attributes started to shine through. And I think Ben White will go the same way.
I think. I mean, you had the Mertesacker Koscielny partnership. You had Campbell and Toure, and you've got White and Gabriel. And I think that the partnership between Toure and Campbell and Mertesacker and Koscielny kind of fit a pattern where you had one who was very cerebral, very physical as well, and you had another one who had pace, who could mop up at the back when it went past that person. And I think. Gabriel is very physical, and he bats most aerial balls away, no problem at all. But when something goes past him, he's no slouch, but I think Ben White could be that player. I wasn't slating Ben White, and I'm not saying he's not good enough.
No, it's okay to be critical because he's not been perfect.
Anyone who reads my stuff will know that I am not critical. I am overtly positive. I will just say that I'm just not. From what I've seen, the feedback has been Ben White is amazing. What a brilliant player. Blah blah blah. And yeah, he's made a few errors, but it's been the majority of it has been positive. I'm just saying I'm not complete. Hold back a wee bit. We don't know if he's going to be.
Yeah,
as good
I agree with you. If there's ever a perfect example of how Arsenal fans, well, a small minority, shall we say, are prone to completely blowing a player out of proportion. It's Charlie Patino last night. I mean, Christ, he's just a kid, and he's being hearkened like he's some sort of amalgamation of Beckenbauer, Xavi, and Vieira all at the same time. Now, for all we know, it'd be great. For all we know, it'd be brilliant. But fucking hell, he's 18 years old. He's played 20 minutes.
I remember. Do you remember Daniel Crowley? Very, very talented.
Super Dan Crowley. Yeah, he went on loan to Holland.
Yes, and it was more of a. I mean, look at Ravel Morrison as well. They're saying, I can't remember who said it was a Man United squad member. Said the most talented player they'd ever seen.
I think it might be Ferguson.
It's Rio
Come out
Ferdinand,
the youth system. That's it. Come out the youth system was Ravel Morrison, and look, I mean, he ended up playing like in the second division in Mexico. Daniel Crowley went on loan to the Netherlands. He went on there permanent eventually. I don't know where he is now. I think he might be in League Two. I'm not sure. But what I'm saying, talent isn't everything. And
he's probably in like some sort of league where anyone could play, like France.
I have a list,
Chris is going to murder you.
I have a list of all the old players, and he's currently at Cheltenham Town, Played 11 games. He's only 24 years old.
He's
in
just
Cheltenham
up the
Town,
road from me then.
League One, 11 games, 15 games all season. That is because in the old days, I used to go when I was updating on the reserves and you Super Dan Crowley, future England legend. That's an old one. Didn't happen.
Just doesn't sometimes, does it?
It just doesn't.
So many. Arsenal had so many promising youngsters.
Fran Merida looked really good. Carlos Vela looked really good.
Fran Merida just sounds like a dessert, doesn't it? I'll have some Fran Merida.
Little update for people if you care about the Carabao Cup. Spurs are not playing their first team. West Ham are. It's 0-0. Brentford, I don't know if that's their first team. And Chelsea definitely are not playing their first team. Liverpool aren't playing their first team. They've got a couple of the Oxes playing and one with the teeth he's playing. And then Leicester are playing full side.
One with
Leicester
the teeth,
winning 2-0.
Firmino.
That's it. Bobby the Teeth.
That sounds like a gangster, doesn't it? What's your name? Jimmy Typeland.
You'd love to see Firmino and Gabriel have a white teeth off.
Oh, that'd be awful. Michael in Sweden says Morrison couldn't make it at Östersunds.
Was that
played
when
against...
Potter was manager?
Yeah.
Was he at Östersund when Potter was manager?
I think he was.
Fuck, okay.
Yeah.
Östersund sounds like a it's Norwegian cake mix.
Sounds like some kind of bone disease.
Östersund sound like one of those Sunday detective dramas that you put on. Östersund, vet at large.
As he's walking along.
Watch out, he's got a fucking shooter.
That reminds me, I've got all of the Goonosphere podcast on my main drive. I found them and I need to post them to you lot. Daniel wanted a copy of them because I've got them and they're £50 million each. Right. So
worth every penny.
Yeah. So move on from the Aubameyang situation. Let's have a look at the lack of contract. I've made 3 lots of notes. Do we offer him a new deal? If so, how long and for how much? He's going to be 31 in the summer, I think. Has he shown in the last few games that he still has what we need? And like Aubameyang, who could afford his wages, especially as he is not a 30-goalless season man? So if someone's going to pay big money for someone, like he's going to want the old fabled, my last contract, I've got kids to feed and I need to turn the electricity on because it's winter, the poor boy. They want to go for one hell of a big final deal. I think he's on maybe 180 with us. And there was I heard another podcast saying that he's going to want a lot more money and be our highest paid player. Can't do that, can we?
I think it's a tough one because he's been good this season, but there has to come a point where we make the right decision for his future. And I can't think it's anything but letting him go. If he leaves on a free, he's in the sort of beneficial position where he can get a large signing on fee because there's no transfer fee involved. So
no Premier League team will have him because he's not a goal scorer. What's the point in having him?
If he goes anywhere, it'll probably be I think it'll be Serie A because that's where that's like a graveyard for players.
Giroud and all these other ones, and Xhaka at Milan, and Zlatan, who's 61. They love it.
You can play in Serie A.
I could play in Serie A.
I think me and Jock could probably form a good central defensive partnership in Serie A. He goes there and he doesn't necessarily. It prolongs his career, so he could go to Juventus, AC Milan, Parma, whoever, and probably have. No one does what Laka does. It sounds like his debut hip hop album.
That's his featuring Adele.
Yeah.
I would say with Laka, he offers something that no one in our squad offers.
Like Giroud used to.
It's not irreplaceable. He has good hold up play and he's got good interlink play.
But that's not the future for Arteta, is it?
He's showing desire for the badge, which is great, but it's not something we can't replace. If he said, listen, I want a 2-year deal on the same wages I'm on, because like you said, he's 31, so he's past his physical peak. He is the only way technically, physically for him is down. So he'd be well within his rights to ask for the same again. And that would be offering, 180k a week is still a princely sum. Then we'd have to think about
earning in more than he'll get playing any other team. You don't get that in Italy, and he's not getting that in France.
Exactly. But if he is asking to be the top earner, he's got to go. He has to go because that's. That's like
no way. We would do that.
We would attack Don Raul if he offered those kind of wages. because it's madness. So we can.
He'd have to do something pretty fucking spectacular between now and the end of the season for that to happen.
He's capable of it. I mean, do you remember the Europa League when we got to the final? He scored that free kick, 30 yards. I think was it against Napoli?
Napoli,
or
yeah.
Against Valencia. I can't remember. First leg. I'm not sure, but either way, he's capable of the spectacular. He's capable of goals, and he adds something to our team. But like the comment came along, he does what no one else does in our squad, but it's not something we can't find.
Yeah, the trouble with him doing what no one else does in our squad is that there are players out there that we could sign, younger, better, that will do more.
Yep.
You could make a very good case for when the summer comes around. We don't need one striker; we need two. I mean, I don't pretend to know exactly who we should go for, but I think if we do go for two, one of them's got to be good in the air. We are so crying out for someone who can head a football.
Very, very true.
That
Especially the amount of balls
be.
coming in from
It
Tierney.
won't be Vlahovic, will it? He's down to Juventus.
Oh no, it's no way it's going to be him.
No. Right, so, let's move away from I've got a thing here about Eddie, but I might do that later. Can we push for third? No Europe. Chelsea form is bad. They've won 2 of their last 7 and conceded 11 goals in their last 7. Do you think there's any way with the form and the players and no injuries, which has been amazing for us this season? Can we go for third?
I think if we're going to get third, we will have to be perfect from now to the end of the season and still rely on Chelsea being bad.
There's no way.
The truth is that we are not the third best team in the country, and over 38 games, I think that will show.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get third if we, in any way, shape, or form. Fourth is very much up for grabs, but Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea are streets ahead of everyone else at the moment. Yeah, they have injury worries, Chelsea and whatnot, and they're going through a wee bit of a bad patch. But before then, everyone was going, Rudiger was the best centre back in the league, and Chelsea are going to steamroll everyone. Thomas Tuchel, that he's a winning machine. And now all of a sudden they're not going to make Europe. Chelsea shouldn't be doubted. They'll be there or thereabouts. Of course they will. City are untouchable. Even without a bloody striker, it's just insane.
And
Liverpool
they've agreed that deal, haven't they?
signs.
They're selling Torres.
See, the thing is...
Ferran Torres, really?
Yeah, going to Barcelona for 50 million.
That's strange.
That's a bargain, really.
The funny thing about those 3 teams you've mentioned, I've said this before, that I will stand by that. I think Liverpool are by far and away the best team in the country. I think at Anfield, I'd fancy them to batter anyone in this league.
I also think they've got a very, very finite time to be the best team.
Oh yeah, they're on the downside.
Yeah, exactly. I would say after this season, that it's their strike force that carries them through, because they're from their whole game plan starts from the front, and it's the same all the way through. But they start from the front. Once Salah goes, I mean, I'm not convinced he'll sign another contract. And they're talking about, their favourites to sign Haaland. Completely different type of player. You have to change game plan.
If he's going anyone, he's going to City, Haaland.
Yeah, he's tailor-made for City. But they've got a very finite time where they're going to be the top team in the league. And I would agree.
Klopp's manager, he squeezes every ounce out of his teams. Look what he did to Dortmund. Brilliant. Oh my God, they're shit in such a short length of time.
You look at Liverpool's team, that they got Van Dijk, Salah, Sane, Henderson, Alisson. The only people who've got longevity in that team are probably Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, maybe Diogo Jota as well, but they are definitely going to hit a downside soon.
Yeah, I don't get the hype about Jordan Henderson. I think he's absolute toilet. I think he is. He's the Sunderland El Neni. I mean,
Jordan Henderson is what would happen if you put Granit Xhaka into Liverpool's team. Be no difference.
Yeah, apart from the obvious red card every now and then, but I mean, he's capable of. He's got a howitzer on him, just like Xhaka. But skill-wise, he's like a square peg in a round hole for Liverpool. I just don't get the hype. Really,
look at Liverpool last season. I'm just looking at from January, beginning of 2021, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They lost 8 out of 12 games when they had a few injuries. And at the moment with COVID, they've got Van Dijk is out. I think there was a couple of others that are out. And tonight they're playing all their kids. But it's like Adam says here, the first 11 is class. The minute there are injuries catch up, they don't like it. they don't look like that great. And
Yeah.
Avon has put Liverpool physically dropped off a cliff towards the end of last season before staging a recovery. Why do we think they'll be fine physically this season? I think
they'll be
so
better.
many.
I mean, they're so reliant on Van Dijk. They were without Van Dijk the whole season last season, and everything the season before was aimed towards winning the league. Ending that 30-year wait, they won it, and I mean, we've proved so many times as well. And Ferguson has also said, Sir Alex Ferguson has also said it, where it's harder to regain the league. I mean, it's doubly as hard as winning it for the first time. So they won the league, and then the next season, I mean, that hype, that mentality wasn't there. Then they lost Van Dijk. Then COVID hit. Everyone was dealing with this entire factor of not playing in front of fans. There was gaps in the season. Last season can be written off in terms of form and where people placed. I think it was a completely unique season. This season, people are getting used to playing in with COVID and in bubbles, and they've played without fans as well. So Liverpool are back to where they should be, but they won't be there for long. Because like everyone's mentioning, the first 11 is amazing, but you take a couple of players out, and they are.
I think my point was that you put their first 11 against anyone at Anfield, and they'll beat them. And they won't just beat them; they'll batter them. Because I think their first 11 at home is that good. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but if you're thinking about the away game in the season, which you worry about the most, at the moment is Liverpool for me.
Mm-hmm.
I always think that maybe we could sneak a point at Stamford Bridge. Maybe we could sneak a point at the Etihad. But I always think we'll get battered when we go to Anfield.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they won't get through to the next round because Leicester are playing their best players. And
Vardy scored, hasn't he? He's the one
scored 2. And it's
2-0.
2-1 at the moment. The Ox scored a screamer. Someone in the chat was keeping us updated with it. Shane asks a good question here. Hello, Shane. Don't recognise you. And welcome. We should bring our first team for the remainder of the League Cup games and seal it. Would be great for our young players. And also, it would be Arteta has won the FA Cup, the Charity Shield, and the League Cup. I think if we can, I don't want us to get to the final and play someone like Chelsea or Liverpool if they did get there. Spurs are 1-0 up as well, but they're playing. Who scored that goal? Bergwijn scored it. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be Leicester, Chelsea, and Spurs maybe getting through to the final. I'd rather lose in the semi-final than lose in the final. So would you go all out? Yeah. Well, we've lost 32 consecutive finals now, haven't we, or something?
Silverware
We've won 2 out of 8.
It's hard to come by. So, I mean, the League Cup has had a revival of sorts. I mean, look how many times Man City have won it in a row. If they take it seriously, it ain't too good for us at all. Plus, we've seen how hard it is to get back into Europe. We should 100% take this seriously. Plus, we're not in Europe this season. So, it's not like, we're dealing with a massively packed calendar like the other top teams are. So, yeah, 100%. Let's go for it and let's win it. Last time we won it was 93.
That's our Nick from ABW. He says, welcome to the Goonosphere podcast. Curly whirlies for everyone. We're not going to make you dance like a
curly whirlies, my love.
Oh, you've danced yourself. Loki says, I don't count Liverpool's COVID title as a win.
I got on it. I know a lot of Liverpool fans, and it is quite funny that kind of never counted that season, that victory, that title, because they didn't get to have a parade. They didn't get to celebrate it. They just get like, Jurgen Klopp with a party popper, and that was it.
There's David, who was on the show last night, hit like it's the least you can do. That was David, who was doing the sexual breathing. Only after the show did I say, David, we can hear you breathing, and he moved his mic and it was fine. But
Mr. Waffles.
That's his name.
The way you say that is perfect. Mr. Waffles.
Mr. Waffles, who's that?
Should we move on to something else?
Why not, Danny? You're the host, my friend.
I think vaguely.
It's your barbecue.
We're talking about Jordan Henderson, and Adam puts the English Flamini.
It's a very, very good analogy, that is.
It's very unfair on Flamini, I would say.
Yeah, poor old multi-billionaire.
Although, tell you what, Jordan Henderson's never done is it a left-footed volley, right-footed volley from 25 yards in at White Hart Lane.
And played every position on the way to a Champions League final.
Which he was very good at left-back as well.
Yes, he certainly was. Should we talk about a new striker? Who do we need? I've got here. So as Vlahovic isn't coming, Haaland is not coming to Arsenal. That's the only two certainties is neither of those two are going to come anywhere near us. Like we're saying with Haaland, that his dad was played for Man City, and we've seen now that Dortmund lost again at the weekend. They've shit the bed. Their season is over.
Yeah, they're 10 points behind now.
Yeah, they need a new goalkeeper, and they need.
What
a new
I really hope he doesn't do is go to Bayern Munich.
There was talk of that as well, wasn't there? Because Lewandowski has scored 500 goals in the league this season alone, and they're talking about replace, because that's what Bayern do. They nick all the Dortmund's players, and we get them back 10 years later when they're knackered. So, but let's not talk about Haaland. It's just going to make us sad. We would hope that the Norway captain would put his foot down and go, "Oh, you're coming to Arsenal." But there again, I've noticed with Dortmund, when everything is Haaland, when your entire game is Haaland, if he doesn't play, you're fucked. So who do you think we're going to get, or who would you like to go for?
That's a really tough one, that is. I mean, the names you hear mentioned are...
You carry on. I'm eating a Lion Bar. If you want to sponsor us, or Curly Whirlies. Lion Bars.
Should have been a
for
Curly
all your
Whirly.
chocolate needs.
Who is it we've been linked to? It's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Ollie Watkins.
I'm not convinced on him. I like Watkins, but he's more a case of he's not going to get you the goals you need.
What's the guy at Madrid? Luka Jovic?
Out of those three, I'd be more inclined to go for him.
Yeah, but I don't think that'll happen either. I don't know. It's a tough one. I think Calvert-Lewin will cost us a fortune. Mm-hmm. We're looking at least 60, 70 million at least.
Does he give you a touch of the Walcotts? Watkins, is it Watkins at Villa? Him and Calvert-Lewin, they both got Theo Walcott written all over them. As much as I love Theo, and if you're watching, hello, but Theo scored one goal in the last 3 years or something.
I think if I was picking from the two, it'd be Calvert-Lewin because he's pretty good at. This probably won't be popular. I think we missed a trick with Tammy Abraham. I'd take him over those two every day of the week.
Yeah, Tammy Abraham's it's a fair shot, and we could have got him for a decent fee, I think.
The guy you just said, Avon Ted, is he an Avon lady? Do you think maybe he sells
it's Avon Teddington? It's not his real name. I know his real name. I mean, I know his Twitter account, but I'm not going to give it away. It says Jonathan David.
Avon Ted sounds like some sort of ghost hunter / detective.
Avon Ted. I was just about to say Jonathan David from Lille. I mean, obviously, you got the Lille connection with.
Don't know too much about him.
He is prolific.
He's born in New York, 21 years old, plays for Canada, 18 in 24 for Canada. Signed for Lille 2 seasons ago. Signed a 5-year deal for 30 million when he come from Ghent, which is in Belgium. This season, he has got 15 in 26 all competitions. Last season, he got 13 in 48. And Chris likes
13 in 48. In a league, that's I could score 20 goals a season in Ligue 1.
He's got 11 in 18 in Ligue 1 and 15. But if you look at the other competitions, he's got 3 in 6 in Europe, which is always a fair guide. And last season,
there's another guy in France, a Nigerian guy. I can't remember his name.
Is it Niang?
No, Victor something.
Victor Osimhen.
That's him.
I think he's in France. I don't think he is.
Is he? Or maybe I don't know.
But yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of hype surrounding him. I've always wanted to see Inaki Williams in the Premier League. Whether he fits our play is another matter entirely.
How is he not fucking Welsh with a name like that?
Inaki Williams, you bastard.
Yeah, look, NN Goon has got it. Send Edu down to Brentford with 15 million and some thinly veiled threats and tell him you better come back with Ivan Toney if he ever wants another holiday. I'd put fucking holiday. You've been far too polite, NN. And our Nick says...
Would you take Ivan Toney over Calvert-Lewin or Ollie Watkins?
Yes, I would.
As much as Watkins is an Arsenal fan, he can't do it. The pressure will be too much for him. You can do it at Villa and Everton because plus the Calvert-Lewin's always injured.
Calvert-Lewin's the only one who's really got experience of being a goal scorer in the Premier League. Out of those ones.
But he's also had one good season.
That's still one more than the other two.
Josh says Belotti is available on a free. Is that some kind of kitchen roll or is that per player? I don't know.
It's a pasta sauce.
I think he plays for Torino, doesn't he? I believe Belotti.
Oh, Loki. I'm not even going to highlight what you've said there, Loki. And then Guna wants to know any relation to Big Ted, and I'd like to wonder if it's any relation to Jock's Thank You Bear.
Oh,
God. It's another thing entirely.
Could I just say I was there? I can say that I go to my deathbed and say I was there when Sim told Jock about that. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
You're a
And
dick.
you got very, very, very angry, didn't you?
I'm amazed Sim didn't have a Jock-shaped fist hole in his head.
I always thought it was lovely, though, Jock.
No, he was doing it to take the piss because I have Canadian tendencies where I basically say thank you for everything. Everyone knows if you retweet my stuff, I will always tell you thank you because I believe it is warranted. You're sharing my stuff, so I will tell you, James. You must have had about 8 million thank yous from me. Am I right?
It's
Danny,
polite. I mean, there's no dispute, isn't it? It's nothing wrong. It's polite.
I'm not fucking Canadian, Stefan. Okay. Right. Anyway, and he set this parody account up to take the mick out the fact I say thank you all the time, and he swore black was blue that it wasn't him that was the thank you bear, Fluffy Bear or whatever the fuck it was.
Because I remember it wasn't it after we'd been to the
It was after
Emirates.
Sol Campbell.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd been to see Sol Campbell at the Emirates, and
we interviewed him, and it came
incidentally, if anyone reading this looks at my Twitter account and a picture, if you didn't know the two people in that picture, you would have think it's Sol Campbell happy to meet me.
Yeah, it was the same pose every time.
I look like a disgruntled B-list celebrity.
Simmy Javel, admitted that it was him. And he had lied to my face and said it wasn't. So I was so angry. And I'm quite liable to anger anyway.
Really?
Strange that. And I wanted to put a fucking fist through him, to be honest.
Oh dear. I've never had you down as an angry person.
I'm not. I genuinely am.
I don't think you are. You're just.
I didn't think so.
I'm
loud.
not. But some of the Gunnersphere boys, they know me so well now. They know which buttons to press, and they think it's hilarious when this little bald dude gets angry and red. So
luckily for Sim, you couldn't find anything to stand on and hit him.
I could have hit him in the nuts, believe me.
Yeah, and he needs those. What else have we got to talk about? Wilshere and Ramsey. There you go. Let's bring some love for Ramsey and love for Wilshere. Scorn for Ramsey, who's currently sitting on his arse somewhere in Turin, counting 400,000 euros a week. Bless him. He's had to hire someone to. Loki says 3-1 Leicester. Lovely.
Leicester.
Yeah. As Adam made a point. I have a habit of putting stuff up before I read it. Adam says, think I prefer him wide, but wouldn't they think about moving Martinelli up top to be able to accommodate ESR, Saka, hold on. Finishing his defo improved. Actually, before we talk about Wilshere and Ramsey, talk about that possibility, because that is something that a lot of people like. We have seen that through ball from Lacazette, the through ball from Ødegaard, and then Martinelli running on with that through ball, going through the central defence and getting a shot on target for Arsenal. That's something we're not used to seeing. Has Martinelli got a future as a striker in the vein of the Henry kind of running everywhere and causing havoc?
I think he's more like Sanchez. One
of my favourite players of recent years.
Sanchez was absolutely fucking phenomenal. And Martinelli kind of reminds me of him. So could he play up front? Yeah, sure he could. Yeah,
I think he's very, very brave. He puts himself in where it hurts, I've noticed, which is why he gets clattered every 2 seconds. I'd like to see him play a whole season without injury because he does have a tendency to pick up injuries, hence why that's probably because he's brave and puts himself in where it hurts, but it doesn't help himself. He's showing very good signs, but think about it. If Oba doesn't have a future with us and Laka gets turfed out, we're hinging our whole striking future, our whole goal expectancy on Martinelli, and I think that's pretty heavy.
We'll definitely bring someone else in. It's just whether or not they want to rotate that position with him, and he's got the potential to be able to play on the left and up front. So it might be that he's the solution ahead of Balogun or Nketiah when it comes to having backup for whoever we buy. Personally, I reckon we'll see the back of Lacazette and Aubameyang in the summer. Maybe if Aubameyang's gotten as bad as people think, then maybe he'll go in January, assuming anyone's dumb enough to pay his wages. That's not fair. He's actually been an incredibly prolific goal scorer up until the last couple of seasons. And I reckon in maybe even in Serie A, it'd be good. He'd probably bang him in for fun there.
Sai says, let Martinelli play 10 games before we change him to every position available. But I think that says a lot about the player, doesn't it? That we can play him in any one of Mikel's forward 4 positions. And he would, there again, the same with ESR and with Saka. I mean, the last time I saw an Arsenal team where you could have so many players swap position was Henry, Perez, Ljungberg. They could all play in the wing. They could all play more attacking. They could all, and in Bergkamp, he could play in goal. He was so good. But it's just magnificent to see that if you're playing Arsenal, then you're going to be looking at that team going, well, Saka could go on the right at any point. And I think there was, I was listening to someone talk about a podcast where they were saying they were told, maybe it was Leeds, they were saying the problem Leeds had is they were man marking. And when and then we kept getting Lacazette dragging players out of position, and then another one of our players would then run in that empty position.
It was very intentional, wasn't it? You could see they'd set up to Lacazette to sort of draw one of them out the middle. It just left so much space for the others.
Yes. Do you want to say anything about that, Jock, before we move on to talking about?
No, I'm not doubting that Martinelli cannot play there. I'm just, let's hold fire before we put the whole burden on him.
Loki says the lad from Fulham looks fine up front in the under-23s.
Whatever his name is.
He is. I mean, he's hello, Betty. Oh, you've been out without your booties on, you silly.
I hope Betty. I was just going to say the same thing.
What?
Hello, Betty. Hello, Betty.
I haven't seen you in months.
They're laughing at you, Betty. You'll pull their eyes out, won't you, dear? She was laid on the floor next to me last night, guffing. Dirty trollop.
Betty's a prostitute related to that.
She is. She's not leaving until she gets paid, and that's the bottom line. Wilshere and Ramsey, Jock. Would you give Wilshere a short-term contract to the end of the season? Because Ramsey, Arteta's already said that he's one of the best trainers at the club, one of the fittest at the club, and he's leading everything there. And any thoughts on the Judas that is Ramsey?
I was always more of a fan of Wilshere than I was Ramsey. And myself, Hammers, and Daniel had many heated conversations about when they were both at the peak of their powers. Could we play, a central midfield of those two, or maybe a part of could they play in the same side through the centre? Ramsey, I wouldn't have anywhere near the club again. Not that I don't value his contribution, because he played amazingly for us and he played a very big role for us. But the current state of the player is he hasn't played regular football now for 2 seasons. He's 31 now. He's injury riddled, and I think his best years are behind him. And his
time at Arsenal's done.
Yeah, let's leave it be. Whereas Jack Wilshere, there's no risk so much there. He's a central midfielder that, if what Arteta says is true, what you said, Danny, that he's one of the best trainers and still has the skill, then where's the risk? I mean, could we do with another central midfielder who's quite skillful and who can carry the ball? Well, hell yeah.
Especially in January when we lose Partey and El Neni.
Exactly. Well, I mean, El Neni is you're 6 out of 10, like I said before. Wilshere offers something more, so I'd rather play Wilshere anyway. Partey still has flattered to deceive since he's signed. I've not seen much.
I've always thought he's far too good to be this average.
And the good thing is that he came out and said, I'd give myself a 4 out of 10. So he knows he's not playing well, which is good. It means he is going to get better. So stick with him, because from what everyone knows of him, he is a destroyer. He's really good. But Wilshere, there's no risk. Give him a pay-as-you-play, and he'd be more than happy. I mean, he's happy just to be involved with the club. Give him a pay-as-you-play, and if he does even have a few good games, sign him on a 1 year, and then just keep it rolling. What's to lose?
It's his 30th birthday on January the 1st, and what better happy birthday present is a contract to the end of the season. He hasn't played any football since the end of last season, but there again, that was
it is a crying shame. You'd have think that someone would be willing to take a risk on him because he's still.
Yeah.
He was on Sophie's podcast. I don't know if you saw it. He stayed for an entire hour, maybe even more than an hour. And every question anyone asked him, he answered. And I think that he said that he's had offers, but he's waiting for the right club. Because I think
he's holding out for Arsenal.
He went to Bournemouth under Eddie Howe, who played nice attacking football. And then when he went to Bournemouth at the end of last season, from January until the end of the season,
Jonathan Woodgate that was in charge then.
I think he might have been, yeah. They didn't make the most of him, and they're playing terrible football. And he said that he said there was no point in signing for a team that he can't play football in, which is a good thing because so many mercenary players, we've seen them over the years, will just go, I'll pay for whoever pays me the most amount of money. But if Jack's been amongst the team doing training and helping out and that lot, and the passion that he has for the club, coming in there, he could lift any game. Remember, it was like when Henry came back to the club and immediately lifted the dressing room, and everybody was like, I can't believe I'm playing with Henry. And Saka came out in the last week or so, said when he was growing, a young man coming through the ranks at Arsenal, he used to look at a picture of Jack Wilshere, and that would give him the enthusiasm. He'd go, look at that, and I go, I'm up for a game. I want to be just like Jack. And now they'll be playing with him.
Yeah.
Do it.
Like Jock said, the upside far exceeds the downside.
Sai asks the question. Anybody watch Iwobi recently? Poor lad getting ripped by Everton fans. To be frank, they should have known he shits the bed in the final third. Him and Walcott, they should be up before the Hague for the crimes they've done against Everton.
Whoa.
I think he's talking specifically about Walcott at Everton there, not necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I feel so sorry for Theo.
Oh, do you thought I meant at Arsenal?
Yeah.
Oh, Arsenal, I loved him. You don't score 100 goals for Arsenal with your shit.
No,
only at Everton.
Walcott was one of those where I don't care about the rest. He'd score you goals. He was nailed on to get you 15, 20 goals a season,
I think.
And opposition defences were scared shitless of him.
Wish it only if African Cup goes ahead. AFCON games are live on Sky Sports. COVID doesn't affect those games. Nice one. Next confirmation. Maybe they've already just given assurances that regardless of COVID, this is going ahead. Maybe
we'll still have Xhaka, Sambi, Ainsley,
and yeah, but it's Xhaka who look against Leeds. He could have quite easily been sent off for that stupid tackle because even when he went in studs up, right, regardless, he went for the ball, whatever. Afterwards, he went to shove him down. He's got that liability in him, and we've seen it season after season after season.
I love
Xhaka. We play better when he's in the side. I still can't quite put a finger on why.
He's good with Partey as well. They're a good partnership.
He reminds me a little bit of B.A. Baracus in the A team. He could go mental at any moment, and all the other teams go, don't wind him up. You're going to get something right in the chops.
Andy Robertson at Liverpool is exactly the same. The only difference is he's got much more end product. Andy Robertson is the amount of times you see him do something petulant or stupid.
And Harry Kane, but it's he's England captain.
He's not that kind of player, Jock. I know his song. How dare you, sir? Disgraceful.
Harry Kane could sacrifice a chicken in the centre circle and no one bat an eyelid.
That's because it's covered in spittle.
Anybody in the chat got any questions? I think there's 30 of you watching. These two are not being paid by the hour. So at the moment, we've only got one question. So I shall drag this one out. It's from Loki, 73.
The king, God of mischief.
Who is slightly north of me, near Lincolnshire. He says, is Lackers stepping up considering he is leaving?
Coincided
with him leaving the club.
Is he? He's doing.
Does he mean he's putting in the performances to try and get a new contract?
Yeah.
I would say definitely is that part of it in there.
I think the captaincy's definitely made him step up. His comments regarding the captaincy really did highlight the fact that he values the responsibility. I think he's leaving all options open. So he realizes that performances will pay off if he's staying and if he's going. So, yeah, I think there's a little bit of that in there.
He's doing the opposite to doing a Steve McManaman, where the last half of his final season at Liverpool, he didn't make a tackle or touch the ball because he was going to Real Madrid. That bloke, we should be allowed to, as fans, vote for who we don't want commentating on our games, because he has been an absolute C word the entire time when he's commentating on Arsenal, and the opposite when he's commentating on Liverpool. He is so awful. It makes me want to strangle a kitten. That's how angry I get with it.
That's also a very entertaining conversation about the worst pundit. I will still maintain that Chris Sutton is up there, because he says stuff for reaction. His tone is just, it's like nails on a blackboard bad. I'm not the biggest fan of Jermaine Janus, because he loves a cliche, but this is a very loose term. I wouldn't even describe him as a pundit. But Jamie O'Hara, for sheer idiocy.
Oh, he's as dumb as a bag of spanners, isn't he?
It's scary bad.
I saw him the other night. He sounds like Harry Kane who's fallen down the stairs and banged his head, and then he just come round. Jesus, if he knows that, if on a game of Scrabble he'd be stuck with anything more than 3 letters.
If it was anything other than plop, yeah, no end of bother.
It's so bad. So bad.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of who I think's the worst. I can do without Jamie Carragher. I mean, I won't say that he's not very knowledgeable, because he is. But just sometimes he's a bit.
His accent. I mean, Gary Neville has toned his accent down. Gary Neville was obviously more educated.
Begrudgingly, Neville's an exceptionally good pundit.
Yeah, he's.
I like Roy Keane, which I never thought I'd say.
I love Roy Keane. I think he's a fucking mentalist, and I love it. To be fair, Martin Keown's a bit boring.
Nah.
He's a bit nondescript.
I like Lee Dixon. I love Righty.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, everyone loves Righty.
Did I ever tell you my wife's met Ian Wright?
Has he?
What?
My wife, yeah, she's met. To this day, she still mentions it. She didn't even know who it was until afterwards. I'm like, you just met one of the greatest players in Arsenal's history.
I think Carl.
The worst thing, she's got his autograph, and she says, I don't know where it is.
I'll ask in the group. Our Carl, I think it's his Ian Wright's mum used to babysit Carl, or Ian Wright's sister, or Ian Wright's auntie, or someone like that. He has a direct lineage to Ian Wright via babysitting. And has he ever got him? I mean, Ian Wright's made it clear he's never doing any Arsenal podcasts.
Glenn Hoddle's the worst for me.
I met him, miserable shit, and I met Daley Thompson on the same day, both twats.
You know who's really good? Ali McCoist, Super Ali.
McCoist.
Love Super Ali.
Loki's added one in. Michael Owen, arsehole.
Oh, no, that's a really good show.
You can't say any better than that, can you? Well done, Loki.
Right. How much more time have you two got? We've been going.
I kind of got to go. My kids.
Me too, actually.
Yeah.
All right. We've got one final question. I'll answer the rest of the questions on my own. From our very own Josh. When are we talking about desserts?
It's a good question.
Well, I had a particularly breathtaking strudel a few weeks ago.
Breathtaking strudel is your album.
Josh, I know, is partial to a sweetened tapioca.
I do like a la mode anything.
I don't even know what that means. That sounds like something you need to get some kind of paint from B&Q.
Danny, you always strike me as a pudding kind of guy as well. Like you wouldn't say no to a second helping a crumble.
Oh, pear crumble? Not apple. Apples are dirty. That's why they find them on the floor.
Peach cobbler, I like. I like peach cobbler and custard. I love.
There's an LL Cool J song called Peach Cobbler, and it's talking about women's butts.
Oh, cheeky.
That's not what I meant.
He also has a song about cobbler. Yeah, it's about cookies in a plastic bag. That's another one of his songs.
Yes, pink cookies in a plastic bag getting crushed by buildings. I'm a very big LL Cool J fan.
I've got all of his albums.
Good reference. Nice one, Danny. I love you even more.
Yes, thank you.
So, do you want to do one more question and then we'll vacate the premises?
Okie dokie. We have got. We can have one about Balogun. Where's he going to go? And what else? Oh, this one isn't a question. Josh wants to know. Anyone know where we can find a decent copywriter job?
You're such a git, Josh. Seriously. I'll reference to the listeners. I've been trying to flog my wares as a copywriting service, and the Christmas lull has meant that I haven't got any customers at the moment. So I've been asking all the Bergkamp Wonderland boys if they know anyone who wants any copywriting services, and I've asked more than once. So Josh his gentle ribbing is in reference to me touting my copywriting services. If anyone needs, if you have a small business Or if you are a copywriter and you want any helpful copywriting tips, that you need a web page written, social media strategy, come to me. Look at dbcopywriting.com. I'm there.
About 3,000 people should hear this if it's an average podcast. Chris Jones says, not sure if you talked about Balogun. We'll cover that in the next podcast because I really want to ask this final question. It is from NN Guna. You somehow managed to get an invited to the Arsenal team's secret Santa. Who do you hope draws your name, and who are you terrified will draw your name? NN Guna, that is a magnificent question. Take a bow.
That is right. Who would I want to buy me a present?
I know who I don't want.
Xhaka.
It'll be Kolasinac, because it'll just, or Xhaka will be someone's head in a box.
Xhaka will be some sort of a Toblerone, perhaps.
You're so racist.
That's not racist.
You're just talking about Swiss chocolate.
It's the first Swiss chocolate I could think of.
Something Swiss.
Oh, here you go. Loki.
A clock. Or
Loki is an architect. Copyright on drawings, serious.
No,
he has sent me one of his. He's done architectural drawings of Highbury. It was really detailed.
Does he mean actual? Does he mean copywriting as in, the little C where it's his and his alone? I mean copywriting as in writing copy. Like
copywriting it so that it's his.
Copy someone's writing.
Oh no, that's not what I do.
It's copywriting with a WR, not an R, isn't it?
Exactly.
There you go.
I write stuff. I write words for a marketing or a content strategy. So
couldn't you just go back to stripping? That was a lot easier.
I used to be that little midget you get handcuffed to in a stag do.
Oh, lovely.
Answer
the question. Who do you want or don't want?
What most people don't realise is that Jock isn't sat down at the moment. He stood up.
That's 3 times that joke's been made, you wanker.
3 times. And I didn't even want to do it the first time. I just felt obliged.
It was very good, to be fair. I'll give you that.
Sorry, let me finish the question.
Go on.
Xhaka, like Danny said, Xhaka or Kolasinac, I probably wouldn't want. No, Alex Runason, I would buy me a present. It get dropped about 20 times before I got it. Aaron Ramsdale to buy me one.
Yeah? Why?
They just get you Eccles cakes.
I like Eccles cakes. The signed Eccles cakes to go down.
And a pie.
Again, I see no downside.
Or some what's those black sausages called made of blood?
Black pudding.
There you go. We get you a pork pie, a black pudding, and some Eccles cake.
Sounds good. I would go with Tierney because he could buy me something that we both would appreciate. What? You're useless to me, Jock. I get that a lot, to be fair.
How does it make you feel to have a regular first team or one of our best players being a fellow Scotsman?
You can practically taste the iron brew.
But unfortunately, he comes from the wrong side of Glasgow. I'm not a Glaswegian, but as a Scotsman, if you're not from Edinburgh or Glasgow, you normally have a blue or a green allegiance, and my allegiance is blue. So he's a boy.
Funnily enough, if I was picking Scotland, mine would be blue as well.
I
always preferred Rangers somehow.
I've got a complete aversion to anything green, and it's ridiculous.
That's why you won't watch anything Marvel, in case that green bastard pops up.
Jock smash.
I would like Per Mertesacker to buy me a Christmas present because I just think he'd be really fucking good at buying presents.
Oh yeah, he'd put some thought into it, wouldn't he?
He really would, And I think I wouldn't want something from Arteta because it involved hair products, and I've got no fucking hair, so.
No,
Katie might give you a haggis.
I haven't had a haggis for 2 years now.
When was the last time you had haggis? Was it in my stag do the last time you had haggis?
I think it might have been, yeah. I mean, my wife refuses to cook it because it spits. That sounds just.
Well, I think that's haggis should be left to roam free in the Highlands because I've seen one. It was on that thing that one of the children's TV programs had one. A cartoon of one running around being free.
That's right. Was it Super Gran or was it the family? Super Gran was a Scottish cartoon.
I think it might be Super Gran. Billy Connolly.
Family Ness. Do you remember the Family Ness?
Oh yeah.
One of those was commentated by Billy Connolly, wasn't it?
Incidentally, Billy Connolly's in the film Brave, which my little boy really liked.
I have got every Billy Connolly film there is, and all of his TV appearances. And I've got them all and organised by date because that's how much I love that man.
His stand-ups are gold. Pure gold.
Yeah, and I've got all
Smash
those,
page.
and I've converted them all to MP3. All these stand-up videos. Right, there you go, people. That's been a very nice podcast. I think, Daniel, you should... I want to say Daniel. It's Dan. I fucking hate it when people call me Daniel. Jock, first of all, you need to apologise to everybody for withholding your podcasting talents to the world for so long, because you have been magnificent.
Can I make a suggestion? I
Yes.
think we should try and get all 5 of us onto a podcast. Me, Jock, Sim, Mike, and Daniel.
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
and then it'd just be you 5, no one else. Now I can run it in the background, and you 5 can all talk.
That would be good. I'm well up for that.
No, because it just end up being a jock, like a jock ribbing-a-thon.
True,
You
but
know,
again,
you'll
I'm
get
well up for
angry.
that.
I've not heard you get angry. I might listen to one of your old podcasts because you used to get so fucking angry, you bastards.
Dagger.
Yes.
Back to you in studio.
Yes, I've got
Forgot about that. Oh my God.
some of the stuff you used to do, like that Batman thing that you did, and the film things that you'd spend hours doing.
Yeah, they were good.
Magnificent. Yeah, so if you want to do that, I've got the Goonisphere logo ready, and I will.
I've
I'll do
already
the
spoke to
technical
the
side,
other.
and you 5 can be there talking on your own. That would be a thing of absolute beauty. But don't invite Devon, because me and him had a falling out.
He's not really part of the team anymore.
Good fucking.
No, he's been cut out a wee bit, but mainly through only. I mean, he chose it. I mean, we didn't say see you, Devon. He just all of a sudden
We
just
had an exchange of
disappeared.
DMs, and then unfollowed each other.
Was it
shit.
Nudes?
It was those shitty
you know.
haircuts he's got. Well, he won't listen to this.
Hey,
Right,
Mike,
so
yeah. I
if
got
you
me.
can-
I always liked him. I thought he was a good dude.
I
but-
used to love him. That's why I followed him. I thought he's brilliant. But yeah. So, Jock, are you going to come back again? Or is it going to be another? Well, this is your debut. So you're going to wait another 9 years before you come on.
I will speak to the others, and we'll see if we can do something where we get all 5 of us on, because I think that'd be brilliant.
It would do. So also, thank you, James. You have been decidedly average.
As always, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. And thank you, Sophie and Harry, in your absence. My Greek brother and sister. Powers to the Greeks. We used to own this world. And the fucking Romans. What do they ever do for us? Sunk our boats. took our
Irrigation.
women. Yes.
Are you the
Bloody
Judean
Romans.
People's Front? Fuck off.
Oh, fucking spitters. Half a denari.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very
no one's
naughty
gonna give a
boy.
shit about any of
Nice one, Centurion.
it. You only hung me the right way up yesterday.
This is the
Crucifixion?
mod here.
No, freedom.
Oh, good. Off you go then. Oh no, better stop. This could go on for hours. Right, thank you very much, everybody, and everybody in the chat. You have all been, in the words of Mr. James Rouse Stokes, you've been beautiful bastards.
Yeah, my lovers. All right. Love you very much.
That's
Goodbye.
creepy as fuck. Bye. See you later.